At AQA, we work with the UK's largest teacher network to shape the future of assessment. With teachers for students, we ask questions today that matter tomorrow.
The 7,500 primary schools are already using Capel Primary to boost confidence in teaching foundation subjects. Our expert-created curriculum planning, lessons and CPD are here to support and upskill you, whether you're a subject lead or classroom teacher. If you've got knowledge gaps in art, music, computing or beyond, we've got you covered. Head to capelprimary.com and empower your teaching today.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles.
Welcome to Teachers Talk Radio. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Hello and welcome to AI in the Classroom. This is the second time. I forgot to go live the first time. I've spoke for about 4 or 5 minutes before realizing I didn't press the button. This is my second show and my first show flying solo, which is very clear. So I am sorry that I am a little bit late, and I will make up for that, I promise. I will just say what I've already said already. So this is probably going to sound a lot smoother because I've just had a run through of this privately. But it is AI in the Science Classroom this week, and we are going to be joined by Alex Gray, who is a scientist and head of sixth form. He will be joining us to talk about his exploration of AI over the last 2.5, 3 years. I know Alex was a very early adopter, and he's been very open in sharing his ideas over the last few years. So it's going to be great to dive into science as a subject specialism and unpacking how we can use AI in the science classroom. But as I always do to begin the show, I'm going to go through everything that's happened in the last month. And it's been an incredibly busy month for AI, especially for AI in education, being the beginning of the academic year. There's been a whole host of updates to kind of the traditional, what we call wrapper apps that go in front of teachers, but also kind of in general AI. There's always these incremental updates, but I think last month has been so incredibly busy with updates. So I'm kind of going to try to summarize them in about 5 minutes, maybe shorter to make up the time that we've lost, and then bring Alex straight in to get into unpacking AI. First off is the Apple Intelligence earbuds. This is kind of the Star Trek dream for me, where you're getting close to that live translation. I've seen some other ones where you can kind of, another different product, which I forget the name of right now, where you can swap the earbuds. So you have one in each ear so you can talk to each other live. I don't know if the Apple has that feature, but I thought that was quite cool. So you could share the tech amongst you. Hygiene might be a concern there, but I'm sure maybe Alex would talk about that. Maybe he could give us some tips from the science lab about things we could use to keep our traveling the world earbuds clean. But then we've had updates in Gemini. The search Gemini that you get, it's a slightly improved version of that. They've incremented that up to the 2.5 model of Gemini. So the results you should get there should feel a little bit more refined, probably a little bit more in depth than they were. I did a search earlier in a school marketing meeting just to find out where we were in the market, and it was just giving us answers to see what LLMs brought back, and it was longer than it used to be. So maybe that's a sign that improvement is there. As I said, most of the kind of main tools focused at teachers have had incremental updates since the beginning of the year. UNESCO has just held its Digital Learning Week, where it's really stressed that need for education, especially to be human-centered, and emphasizing that we are irreplaceable, which is nice to hear. I like my job and I'd like to keep it for as many years as I possibly can, but saying that we must address the AI divide of the haves and have-nots, and the students that have got access to this technology and the students that don't around the world. Now going into the kind of incremental updates here and unpacking those a little bit. OpenAI and Anthropic have kind of increased their share in the kind of coding market and the vibe coding it's called. They've had improvements to their ChatGPT's codex, and Claude has incremented to Sonnet 4.5. And it's there to help more with STEM, more with coding. And so more with STEM and more with coding and improving that. There's also been big updates with the Facebook. They've released their Meta, or are going to release their Meta Ray-Bans very, very soon. And there has been an announcement from OpenAI about their new Ray-Bans, which will have that live kind of interaction, that kind of HUD display, kind of like you get in the Iron Man, where you'll be able to see kind of what's going on and get that kind of live, kind of augmented reality overview. OpenAI have been bringing in Sora 2. They've kind of gone the same way as Google and created a video model, which can, as well as giving you an animated video, also bring in background music, talking, sound. They do say it's got better physics than the VO3. And one of the main updates there has been that it says that it does come with an app. So that's something that should concern us. The first thing that came to mind is they are encouraging something called the Cameo feature. It means that they're actually encouraging you to put yourself into these AI videos, which a tool hasn't really done before openly, or this apparently. So if our students can download an app, and then they can use this to upload images of themselves and put themselves into the videos, there might be the temptation to do this for other people as well. So we just need to be mindful of this as educators, that deepfakes might have gone to something where you might have had to go to a particular website or download a certain piece of software to something that will be on the App Store and be in students' pockets on their phone. So that has been one of the things that's mainly concerned me over the last week since that update. I am now going to welcome in Alex Gray and just get going on this. Hello, Alex. How are you?
Hey, good evening. I am very well, thank you. How are you doing after take two?
Much better. I think take two might have been smoother. You listen to both versions, so you can be the judge of that.
Yeah, take two was smooth, seamless, like you'd rehearsed it.
As if I had rehearsed it to myself for 5 minutes. So where are you coming from today, Alex?
I am based in Dubai.
And science. Let's talk about science. So do you teach have a particular specialism, or do you just go across all the three sciences over there?
So most scientists will at Key Stage 3 teach all sciences, so biology, chemistry, and physics. My specialty is biology. So the way my school works is once they get to GCSEs, then I will specialize. So I'll teach biology. I can also teach chemistry. So I teach both of those generally at GCSE. And then at A level, it's, again, very, very specialized. So I just teach the biology component at A level.
Fantastic. And I know you also head of sixth form? I
am, yes.
So how long have you been in that role? I think is this your second year?
So this is my second year. So I moved schools. I'm trying to think what we are now, 2025. So 2024, and it was a brand new sixth form. So I went in there and I looked after year 12 and year 11 at the same time. And then this year we've just had our obviously first cohort into year 13. We've had, I think the numbers really have exceeded our expectations coming into year 12. So we're now a year and a bit in, and we've got 63 students with us in sixth form. So really, really happy with that.
Fantastic. And just getting to the topic of the day, what was it that initially sparked your interest in AI and how that could be used in education?
So, I mean, I remember it quite clearly in terms of when it happened, a connection on LinkedIn around December time. And I always get my years wrong, but I think it was December 2022, I think.
Yeah, November 22 was kind of the release, wasn't it?
So it was in December time because we'd broken up for our Christmas or winter break and had posted something about it on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, this is interesting. As someone who's always been interested in technology and utilizing it within the classroom. And again, when I say technology, I'm also probably one of those geeks. I love cameras and I love editing and I love videography and those types of things. So I've kind of looked at it a little bit more from that perspective as well. But I remember seeing the post about it and I was like, oh, I'm going to go try this out. So I was very fortunate to be able to spend the winter holiday just experimenting. And then at that time you had Dan Fitzpatrick, who was using social media and obviously going through and showcasing just those little videos of the types of things you could be doing with it, just in a very basic text, from a basic answering to then coming up with certain things. But what seems now is ludicrous to say on a very basic level. But back then it was phenomenal. And that kind of just kept my curiosity with it. And over the course of the time, as it improved, it was just seeing what other people were doing with it and seeing how it could change text and change information from an accessibility level. Because for biology, or I was probably teaching any A level, the context, the text, the ideas can be really challenging. And so having something that can disseminate, can simplify and make accessible to lots of other students was really, really good. And then from my side, it was then this almost repertoire of knowledge about different pedagogical practices, because it's all on the internet. You've got people's research on the internet, and you've got, people's ideas in blogs and all these different things that are freely shared. And so you've got these ideas that you probably wouldn't have access to normally, or it's difficult to find, or it was being able to pull these things together. So for me, from a pedagogical standpoint, I was then being able to find bits and be inspired by different articles and different types of information. And obviously at that point, there was still slight hallucinations with things that it was telling to you, but you could see the premise of it. You could see how good this could be in terms of within the classroom, as in the content being delivered to students, the content for me that was allowing me to develop as well. And it was kind of just something that was, I think, kind of a little bit more reinvigorating or re-energizing, especially coming out of COVID, where you'd had this use of technology, and then you have this dip down where people are like, let's just go back to human teaching. And then this piece of tech that comes through as a tool, and it's like, wow. And you just see it go like this. Everything's just taken off. And I imagine at some point it's also going to dip back down slightly. And we'll get into this later, because that's generally what happens. It's the same as the COVID side. It's the same as the iPad side. It's the same as everything else that's come before it. But for me, fast forward to today, it's just such a powerful tool and resource now more than ever for, I think, just for learning, developing, progression, growth, and with the caveat, if used correctly.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm just going to jump in there. And speaking of partnership and growth and development, I'm going to talk about our sponsors of Hachette Publishing, who have a wealth of professional development books and resources and that support great teaching and learning all around the world. And if you want to level up your professional development today, go to www.hachetteLearning.com and explore their range of titles. So yeah, going back to that, and like the access to information and be able to differentiate and work with those kind of, like, say, early, but the versions of LLMs we kind of got access to as the public. Has there been something that stuck with you all the way through that development, or for you, has your practice been incrementally changing as you've gone?
It's a bit of both, I think. I think one thing that stuck with me throughout is the ability to take, let's say, a piece of information, and within certain copyright rules, let's say a part of a PDF, let's say, where of the books that we can get, and being able to put that text information in on a closed loop and go, right, I need to have variations of this. The one thing that has stuck with me is question-based notes. So I'm a massive advocate for my year 12s, when instead of writing notes, they answer questions based on the text they should read. I find it's more of an active process of learning rather than a passive process. And so having something where you can just put the information in and go, give me 20, 30 question-based notes for this piece of information. And it does it so quickly and so effectively now. I use it to this day. prior to that, I would go through, and I still do, I show students how to do it. So instead of reading something, writing a note down, you might read something and say, well, photosynthesis is the process of this. So instead of writing that as a note, you then go, you write a question. So you would go, what is photosynthesis? So as an active component of recall and revisiting, as they come to revise and so on, they don't see notes, they have to answer questions. So for me, being able to produce that and show them how they can produce that, and it's done within 2 minutes, 60 seconds, is a super powerful tool that's stuck with me throughout. I think incrementally in terms of changing, I was thinking about this because you're always experimenting with. So for example, there are tools out there that would allow you to make or take a photo of someone, input a script, and then you would have that talking head. And for a while, those were really good hooks, they were really good introductions, and they still have a place, but it's clear and obvious to the kids now. They can go, that's just an AI generated thing. And for the time for the students, that actually switches them off. So that started at the beginning, and it was like, oh, wow. And now they're so accustomed to these things, it really doesn't hook them in probably as much as you wanted. But then at the same time, the videos have got better. The quality of the sound has got better. There's a place for it in there. But it's changed even from here is the character we want to interview. So you remember what it was like. You would put someone into the chatbot, and the kids would ask the questions and so on and so forth. But even now, that has changed slightly in terms of, well, what's the validity of the information the person's giving? So the approach to it might still be there, but now instead of going, right, just take the information down, what I'm finding that I'm doing is actually I'm focusing more on student thinking skills. So the idea of bias, the idea of validity, the idea of accuracy, where they can have this conversation, but the actual task, the actual assessment part we want isn't about the information received. It's about the student's ability to ethically use it. It's about the student's ability to go through and spot bias and spot misinterpretations and be able to go, right, how good is the process? So my steps have kind of changed a little bit along the way with that, focusing more on thinking rather than just facts.
That's great. And I actually randomly, and I don't think we've ever actually spoken about teaching in our teaching approaches, but I'm the very same way, just questions, using those question stems. And I completely agree where you've gone. I think if we're always talking about critical thinking being a more powerful and more essential skill in the age of AI, where there's going to be more misinformation, as you said, bias and unpicking things like that, I think any way we can strengthen or flex those muscles in any class, in any subject, is going to be like one of the core skills. And I think it's something that, without chucking AI into every single lesson, bringing in more critical thinking and analysis and questioning of resources that we give is going to help build that digital literacy.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just want to say, has this changed? So the way you prepare your lessons now compared to pre-ChatGPT, is it very similar? Is it, how different is it? Or did it change and then you go back? Because I kind of changed and went back a little bit.
I think you do. Like, I'm reflecting on how I used to teach. So I enjoy connectivism and constructivism. So those types of learning theories in terms of building on students' prior knowledge and then getting them to connect to things that they are familiar with. So I use a lot of dual coding. I would always use images and then start to make the connections between that in very like analogies or ways that it shows up and have those things. So I remember when I was teaching, before I moved out to Dubai, I broke my ankle really, really badly playing rugby. And at the time, I'd bought this book about cooperative learning from Spencer Kagan. So all these Kagan strategies. So I found that really, really useful in terms of developing students' communication skills, critical thinking, creativity, and how they work collaboratively anyway. And then just layered on top of that, this concept of, right, can you connect and can you build on things that you already know? So for me, bringing in AI into this, like, I still use those things. I still go back to those things. Where it's really allowed me to flex further, and I'll give you a prime example of this, is within Gemini and within ChatGPT. I had a question from a colleague after I delivered some PD on AI, and they said, "Oh, these things are great. How long would it take me to make one?" And I said, "For you as a beginner, it would probably take you 5 minutes." And she goes, "Wow, okay, that must mean you take, like, it's really quick for you." And I was like, "No, it's the opposite." I said, "For me, it'd probably take me about 40 minutes to make one." And she was like, "What? Why?" And I said, "Because I end up going down the rabbit hole of research to pull in all the different facts to trial and iterate, to ideate and see." So I have something that I think it was you that posted about this, actually, the book. And I got the book. So Amelia King's Thinking with AI, I think it is. Love that. And so I go, right, let's look at the components of this I'm interested in. I do the research. Boom, here's my fact sheet. But then I go a little bit deeper. And I'm like, right, okay, what's thinking in general, though? So it's like, right, let's put in this information about thinking. So you go semantic, episodic, you've got all these different types of thinking. Okay, so I've got these 2 fact sheets that are powering now. I've got a gem ready to go. What's missing, though? Because again, it's right, I need low floor, high ceiling. So now I've got this research on low floor, high ceiling. Great, bring that in. And then I saw work from Saba, so Dr. Saba Kukai, talking about sparks and talking about design thinking. I was like, I want a bit of that in there as well. So now I've got this gem that I can basically put my learning outcomes into and say, hey, do this. And it will just, based on the research and I've created, and it comes up with big questions. It comes up with parts about sparks, about the scenarios, about pathways, about anchors, all these different things that I can bring into it. So my lessons can start with big questions. I can connect it. And then it has the variation for students to take different pathways, based on interest, based on what they want to do. And then I have that there if I want to use it. And then I can pull in my own expertise and go, right, that's really good. Let's bring this in. Let's design it so on the slides they can go and do these things. And I think prior to that, I'd always been interested in having different pathways and different, you can do this or you can do that. Whereas now having this information and having that ability to design a lesson still with me at the center of it, because it's my research, it's my interest, it's me knowing about these things. But the outcome and the ideas that come from it are at times better than what I would have come up with, because I'm like, I would never have connected those things together. It would have taken me longer to come up with that as a big question starter, or that as the scaffold, and all those things that can come into it. And I can just piece those things together. And my lessons have probably moved towards now being, right, students still need in science, they still need factual information, they still need concrete knowledge. The different part now is how I can go, right, what can I do to get you to use that knowledge? How can I go about getting you to apply it, to demonstrate it, to do all these different things with it? And for the last one, so within assessments, and I know we'll probably get into this as well, but I'm probably going the opposite way now, where I'm using it myself. So I have I have an ideation GPT. So all the research that I can do with solving problems and ideas. And I just said, we all know this in terms of assessment is an issue. Assessment is a concern within the classroom at the moment with AI. And I was working back and forward with it just to see what we can create. And one of the things we all know is now coming up is like Vivas, like, let's get kids talking. I was like, right, okay, so let's dive into this a little bit further. What can we do? And it gave me 2 things. And these are 2 things that I've done in my classroom with Year 9 and with Year 7 science. So the first one was typical one. Let's use the medical cards, the medical scenarios. So like doctors do in their training, they go around these different parts, these different stations, and they have to talk through, obviously, what is the different scenarios. So you've got a patient there with a card, and these kids are having to move around and go, right, these are the symptoms. And it was to do with breathing, and it was to do with smoking. These are the symptoms. You've got questions you can ask as a doctor, and you've got the other type of prompt questions, and you've got a patient there, and you're going back and forward, getting information out and having to explain certain things. And that was me generating it with AI, Year 9, and they really liked that. They really loved it, being able to go around, and we pulled it together at the end. It was great. And then the last one we did today. So my Year 7 class, the other one and way to look at this was, right, we're going to have a mock trial. And the kids were like, what? In science? We're having a mock trial in science? I was like, yeah. And they're like, what's on trial? I went, diffusion. And they're like, what? I said, that's it. Diffusion is on trial for being too slow and unreliable. prosecution, defense, witnesses. You've got everyday witnesses, so you've got to basically go and do your backstory, your perfume, you're the smell of burnt toast, you're an oxygen molecule, you need to know about particle theory. Right, got jurors, you're listening for this XYZ. I'm the judge, right? Who are my bailiffs? Who are my clerks? And so ideating with AI came up with that, which is I would never have done. And I'm looking and giving them the stories. But now the students, I even moved the classroom, and I'll post a photo later. I've moved the classroom so it looks like a courtroom. So I'm sat there. I've got the witness box over here. I've got my jurors over there, my attorneys. So you think about, I gave them a lesson and a half to prep for this. There you go, guys. This is your role. You need to come up with the questions. You need to, so they might have gone off themselves and used AI a little bit to help research, get questions to create backstories. Great. You still have to talk about it. I'm still going to put you on the stand and they're going to ask you questions. And it was amazing. And it was so interesting. I said to them at the end, it's like, this is a really slow lesson, because in comparison to what they used to, when it's like move, 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 and there's pace, it's like, we didn't have that today. I didn't need it. It was different, and it stretched their human capabilities to listen, to make notes, to think on the spot, to then have to go, the jury then had to go, right, based on the evidence, is diffusion guilty? And they had to go and decide and talk about it. You had a foreman who came. So it was a really, really interesting lesson. And again, it was me working with AI to come up with it, but the students ran it through. The students had to think, they had to use the information to apply it. So I've probably shifted now into here are the facts. We're now going to look at different ways in which we can get you to apply and show understanding that isn't just typing and writing.
At AQA, we work with the UK's largest teacher network to shape the future of assessment. With teachers for students, we ask questions today that matter tomorrow.
The 7,500 primary schools are already using Capel Primary to boost confidence in teaching foundation subjects. Our expert-created curriculum planning, lessons and CPD are here to support and upskill you, whether you're a subject lead or classroom teacher. If you've got knowledge gaps in art, music, computing or beyond, we've got you covered. Head to capelprimary.com and empower your teaching today.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles.
Yeah, and just before I unpack that a little bit, just so people that don't know what those words, a few of the words you've used there, what is a gem and what is a GPT? Because there might be a few people listening who might think you've like robbed a jewelry store.
Okay, so on probably the couple of the 3 or 4 main platforms that we use. So I am one of those people that bounce around ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. And so within Gemini, there are what they call gems. So that is where you can create your own, in a sense, chatbot based on research or information that you would upload into it, and the description you would give it and how you want it to behave and the output you want it to get. The GPT is, again, pretty much identical. You are creating a bespoke chatbot in a way with data information that you give to it with a set of description or instructions on how it acts. And at the moment, you can have them as personal, so you are the only person that can access them. ChatGPT has been around obviously for a little bit longer, in which you can share them with colleagues or with others, or you can put them onto the GPT. I can't think what the term is actually, but there's like a shop store. There we go.
Store or shop.
And within the last week or so, I think it is, Gemini have made it so that you can now share gems and others can use it. Prior to that, you could share it, but it was always in your conversation chain. Now through your Google, I think it's Google Workspace, your Google Drive. It's your workspace or your Drive. Yeah, it's stored on there and you can share it across. So I have those. They're basically, again, versions of chatbots that I've created with a set of instructions and information that gets an output that I want.
I suppose you've done it. You're not starting the conversation from scratch each time, are you? You've already preloaded, as you said. They've been preloaded with all the research, your approach, how you want to have the conversation. So if anyone wants to kind of feel like they're not just looking at that blank box where they have to type and it's going from 0 each time. It's just a way to speed things up and kind of build certain pre-made chatbot kind of for each kind of task or something a way you might want to approach something.
Yeah.
And speaking of different things, if you're looking for another great educational podcast, you can check out the Chalk and Talk podcast with Anna Stokey. Anna is a passionate advocate for evidence-based maths education for students of all ages. On her podcast, she talks about different teaching methods, how-to guides around maths, and evaluating the different research around maths. She is she has top-notch guests, policymakers, educators, researchers, and discusses issues which directly impact teachers. So check out the Chalk and Talk podcast if you're interested in education, and find that wherever you find your podcasts. Also, AQA are sponsors of the show, and they know that teachers are the real experts in the classroom. That's why they work closely with teachers, combining your insights, our insights as teachers, into their assessment expertise to create resources, tools, training, and guidance to generally make a difference. They're the UK's most chosen assessment organisation, so the chances are you already are completely aware of AQA. I taught AQA for many years back in the UK, and as we head into the new school year, or as we head more towards our October break now, AQA are focused on helping teachers feel supported and ready. So if you want to find out more about how they're working with teachers, just head over to their website and search for AQA, We Work With Experts. And back to our current expert in the room, Alex. That transition.
Seamless,
almost as seamless as the start to the show. So we spoke about gems, you talk about GPTs, and one thing I do want to circle back to is often this show is called AI in the Classroom. But as you've just demonstrated, most AI in the classroom is the teacher kind of working in the background with AI to bring something to life in the classroom. And outside what you've shared about gems and GPTs, do you have any other routines or workflows, or because I know you do some training for staff as well, anything that you go to staff, okay, this for me is a tried and tested way where you can use AI to make some gains in learning?
I think I always look at it when we're training with staff, I try and keep it simple into three pillars, which is leading, learning, and teaching. So the leading part obviously speaks for itself. It's when you're working with SLT and leaders and the types of things you can do with it in that respect. So that might be when you go into your data analysis and so on and so forth that comes with that, and policies. But when you get to learning and you get to teaching, I think it's really important that we start to then disseminate the things away. So when we're working with staff, we're focusing mainly on the teaching side of things. And every member of staff, even at the moment, is at a very, very different level, from competency to confidence. They're scared about being able to break it. They're scared of different things, to staff who are like, yeah, I'm flying with it, and think there's probably a misplaced confidence with it because they've used it. And actually, we just start with how to prompt. Like with the new ChatGPT 5 that's come out, you've seen, if you've watched enough videos and tried it yourself, that if you continue to prompt with it the way you've done previously on previous models, the output's very, very different. Because the model is very, very different. So it's working with staff just to understand the how to prompt. And so we work with them to give them a few different ways. So ways that, let's say, the main guys have put out their PDFs, you can piece these together, come up with it, and you know, we talk about it a bit, but in terms of outputs and context and roles and all these different things that we want, I think that are key for there. And we start staff off with that, like very simply, just start with like, what is the context of this situation? What is the role you want it to play, or the role you are? What is the output that you want? What is the errors that it might be going into? And so you then start to see a massive change, because after a few, like within the PD, they're like, oh my God, the output is so much better. And a simple thing of doing that with them makes a massive difference in terms of their confidence and then the competence they feel to use it. So we just give them a PDF and they just copy and paste, and then they edit the bits they need and want with that. And I find that as a starting point for them is really good. The challenge for them comes, and the creative part comes, and this is where now we shift into learning with AI, is how do you then take that and put it into the classroom? How are you going to put it into your curriculum? And the part now that we talk about a lot, and I'm really experimenting with, is how do you put it into the hands of students? Because you're right in what you say. I think 60+% of AI use by teachers is in the background. It's, you know, the lesson making, the assessment making, all those different things. Whereas now we need to pivot that and go, how do we flip it so 60% of its use is in the hands of students? And obviously we want safety, we want ethically, guardrails, all those things we need. But how do we do it? And that's the biggest thing, because within that, you've then got to go, are my staff good enough? Do they understand it? And then how, and that's the case, can they transfer that over to the student use? Because I know people go, oh, the kids are already using it. The kids are this, that. And it's like, yes, they are. But I'll tell you what now, they're terrible at using it. And because they don't have the habits, they don't have the methods, the experience, and the thought processes. And I come back to watching Peps McRae. Peps McRae saw a video of his on LinkedIn, and he had a female teacher, and they were going this very smart back and forth about SLANT, which is for student behavior, like sit up, listen, ask questions, nod, track the teacher. And it was all to do with attention. And I found it fascinating. It's really resonated with me at this moment in time, just to do with student habits, about attention, learning. And if they don't have those habits, if we just go, oh, they'll figure it out, you know, the kids are like this, they just figure things out. It's like, no, we're allowing them to get into really bad habits unless someone's there to guide them back. And that's where we need effective teachers to go, no, let's move you back onto this. Great effort, have some freedom, and that's important. But, you know, you need to be on this pathway. And that for me is super important in terms of giving students the structure with it. And even for kids, how to prompt properly, how to ask questions, how to then go, right, here's a piece of rubbish AI information. I have asked it to act in it. So every time it tells you something, it tells you it wrong. What are you going to do? How do you know it's wrong? And ask that kind of, that give them that side to it, and then put it into their hands and go, right, okay, here for science perspective, here's some data. Let's look at how we analyze that. Human version, AI version. So I call it, if I was to call it anything, it would be a WAGL. I think you can imagine what a WAGL stands for. So what an AI good one looks like, or what an AI one looks like. It would be like that, a WALOL. It sounds like something crazy, but you get the picture there is that what an AI one looks like, and then compare it. And so you're bringing in thinking skills. You want kids to use it. You want them to then go, right, okay, here I'm using it. I've got this information. What's right? What's wrong? How's it different from mine? How's it not? And build their skill sets up, because even the kids need to be confident and competent with it. So circling back to staff, you have to give them what I call sandbox hours. You know, the sandbox, which we'll explain, is like a safe space for play where you can't break anything. You can experiment, you can try and figure things out with people around you in a safe space to go, I understand how this works. I think I could apply this to a part of my lesson and do that. Because like you said earlier, it doesn't need to be used every lesson, and it doesn't need to be used in every lesson. But having that where you can kind of tick sheet skills off for the students, or they can tick sheet skills off and go, I've been exposed to this. I'm starting to see this. I'm used to it. I don't feel overwhelmed because every teacher's trying to ram it down my throat. That is, I think, positive steps forwards. And it works with both the students and it works with both the teachers.
That's the thing as well. And just to circle back, I can tell you as a computer science teacher who is in an IT lab 99% of the week teaching, or 99% of my lessons, that they have digital skills for sure, the kids, but they're not often the ones that they need to use things in the most productive way. And I would say mostly like staff. I've been using chatbots with my students as well. And at first they get the output. And my biggest thing is like, no, read. It's telling you I've prompted this to be like a guide, and it's telling you what to do next. But you just need to read. You need to interact with it. And they're not used to, I think maybe used to passive consumption of what technology gives them potentially at their age. not used to actually interacting and going back and forth. And that's one of the most powerful things about AI. I know that when you are, from what I've seen online, when you're putting that in the hands of students, what kind of, I know you have guardrails in place. I know you use safe and secure platforms, and if anyone is thinking of doing this in their school, go and speak to their senior leadership team, whoever's leading on AI in the school, potentially the school's DPO, just to check whatever platform you're using is completely compliant, just to cover yourself 100%. Yeah. But what are the structures are you putting into place for students if you were to put AI in as a chatbot into the class?
So first thing I did this year is I emailed the parents. I just said, hey, this is who I am. I'm teaching your kids science this year. As well as that, my AI experience / interest is this. I want to use it in the classroom with your students. If you've got a problem with that, let me know. No one, no issues. Like I start with that. Actually, a few of them were like, this is great. Thank you so much. One of them came back and said, I teach at a university level. Let me know if you was like, amazing. And I think you'd probably, as a teacher, if you start with that, you might be surprised with what some of your parents come back with as well on a positive note. So I start with that as the first thing, let the parents know, because I also then spin it to the parents and go, the success of this, I'm going to set them homework where you have to and you need to work with them with the AI. So the parents don't get let off. I think for the success of it and for parents as well, give them a task where it's parents and child working together so they can see, and then they're kind of upskilling themselves a little bit with it. I found that really valuable. But from there, I can give you an example of the very first task I did, and this again with the lower scores. This is year 7 science, been approved, parents signed off on, where this is on our safe platform, what we're using. And it was to do with data analysis. So we've done a method, and we've now got a practical in front of us. We've got some data. So the first thing was, right, guys, here's a data table. We're going to look at how we upload an image into. So we didn't even it was take an image on your iPad, put it in, and here's the prompt. So I gave them a work pack. Here's the prompt. We're looking at being able to make a graph, because it was one of the very first things I remember when AI changed, and it was like, oh my God, the data, being able to do graphs. As a scientist, I was like, this is so cool. And it's like, right, let's have a look at it. And so platform created the graphs, and these kids were like, oh my God, so this is amazing. Look, it looks just like my handwriting. This is amazing. I was like, yeah, aesthetics. Let's be blown away by aesthetics, guys. And after a while, they start drawing it out. So I'm like, right, you can take an image, but we're going to draw it. We still need to know how to draw graphs. So let's draw it. The kids start drawing it out, and they're like, this graph doesn't make any sense. Like, the numbers are wrong. These aren't the data points. It's like, okay, now we're on to something. What is this telling us? What is this showing us? It's like, we can't trust it. It's wrong. It's rubbish. It's like, well, no, let's pump the brakes, guys. Right? It's an important lesson to learn in terms of, maybe it's what I gave you to ask it. Maybe it's that, in terms of graphs and other things, that it isn't that great on it. It's good that we're having this conversation and going, right, let's compare these things and let's think in this way. So you're trying to keep that language very simple for them in terms of making a simple comparison of how it works. But from there, we kind of went, let's continue to use it though, because of this. So we continued on our methodology, and it was basically our peer review expert. It's what we call it. You're our peer reviewer. So we put our method in. Every method the kid wrote, they put into this, and we gave them the prompt, and it was all to do with then, right, what's good about this? How could I improve it? Find me 2 errors, find me 2 things. And in their assessment pack, they wrote down what the AI had said. And then the last part was that, okay, we need to be able to explain this. So it's all to do with energy. So go and ask AI about this. And as the kids do, they're kind of like, tell me about this. And it was to do with kinetic energy. And it just went, roof. Here's all this information on kinetic energy. And they're like, sir, what does this mean? And I was like, right, let's not worry. And here's the interesting thing. I don't know if you found this about them. As soon as it gets long, it can be 100% right for them. It's too long. I was like, oh, what? Are you scared of reading this? It's just too long, sir. It's like, well, did you ask for it? No. And you know what the next word is, isn't it? It's always this one. Simplify. Short, simplify. I was like, no. Right. And then you can teach them how to prompt it properly. So then you can go, right, well, let's think about these things. What's the context? So we don't give it too much information. We can just say, I'm a year 7 scientist. Great. So it knows we're in year 7. Okay. I need to know about kinetic energy. Can you help explain this for me? And okay, well, what's the output? Let's do 3 sentences. Let's do 5 bullet points. Perfect. What's the difference now? Okay. So we're starting to level up on what we ask and how we ask to interact with it, because it's a tool and information. So they write this out. The final part for them in this challenge then is to go, right, take all this information, write it up in your own words. So the conclusion that they wrote is based on the research they've done and their interaction with it, but it's theirs. So the information they gathered is based on the processes they did. And if I continue down that line, I always give them opportunities to have, an AI challenge within it. So they're doing a task, a thinking task, and I might give them an AI challenge. And I've got some of them, let's say, on my phone here. So it's one of them is the reasoning dialogues. So AI plays a Socratic partner, probing student answers in real time. So we know platforms can do that. We've seen a lot of those at the moment as well. Process portfolios, AI critic of thinking pathways. So students submit not just final answers, but interaction logs with AI. And obviously we're looking at the prompts and the outputs from there. Peer and AI double feedback. So student work is reviewed by the peers and AI, and then it gets structured and constructive. So where we're assessing this is the quality of the initial work plus the quality of the response to the feedback. So those types of things. I've done scenario-based simulations. The reverse assessment's a nice one. Students critique AI's answers for accuracy, depth, and bias. So I'm kind of just using it, and they're in very small parts. So I will go, right, we're going to do this task. We go through it. We do the learning. We do the human component. And then I'll go, right, let's look at ways we can show understanding and application of knowledge. We're going to use this. So we open up, everything's there. And for a couple of minutes, they're just interacting with that. It's like, right, let's pull it back in. What do we find? What do we know? How is that? And those kind of like sprints almost, as it were, are quite valuable for them. Rather than just going, right, here's a 15-minute, here's a 20-minute. And that's lower in the school. Higher up in the school with the A-level students, it's trying to teach them the skill of, I call co-learn. We have a talk about co-creation and building, but this one for me, and I've not been able to find a better term for it, but as a co-learner, is having them have their laptop open all the time, which I know some people are like, what? But when we're talking, like biology at a certain point can be getting pre-university is a little bit like lecturing. You need to talk to students, and we've got the boards and I'm drawing and writing stuff and we're talking about things and they're like, what's carbaminohemoglobin? That's one of my favorite biology words. And it's like, my response to this is, and then they get it now, because I'll just turn to them and go, that's a really good question. And they're like, oh, okay. And they're not accustomed to, because I think it's because they think it's rude, but they don't want to go off. They don't want to just go, I'm just going to quickly find out. They're like, but I'm going to miss something if you keep talking. It's this. It's like, no, we need to get them to the habits of kind of co-learn. And I know you've talked about this a bit as well with the students you use in the platform in terms of dipping in and dipping out and getting those, the interactions. It's the same. They just need to be shown and given the freedom to be able to do it. And so I just say to them, these first 6 weeks, it has been, right, guys, pause there. Let's do a bit of co-learning. Go and find out what these parts are. And it's only 30 seconds. It's 60 seconds, right? Add it into our notes. Right, let's check the next lesson. So next lesson, I come back in. And it's like, right, we looked at cofactors. So the word cofactor came up. Just remind me, guys, what's a cofactor? It's something they co-learned about using AI. And it's like, boom. Right, great. It's stuck with you. So the idea of just using it to then come up and is really, really good. So from an A-level perspective, where depth and breadth is key, and even for A-level answers, being able to then get them to work with it for examination technique, for how to do something. That's what we show. It's like, don't ask for the answer, ask for the guide, ask for how to get there. Like it's really powerful in that. So it's layering up that way, from using it very simply when they're lower down in the school to the middle of the school, where it's like we work with it in sprints to be able to challenge our thinking and just check our understanding, to then still have opportunities to create things with it, but higher up in the school where we really want to see them more co-learn with it. That's kind of how I would level through. how I've been doing it at the moment anyway.
I think that's assuading some of the fears, because I think there is this big worry that AI in the classroom and chatbots just means kids on screens interacting. And it's just that. It's like the teacher's gone, the teacher's maybe the secondary player, and it's just a kid in the screen going back and forth. And as you said, sometimes getting wall of text and not knowing what to do with it. But I think we have a very similar approach where the interaction with the AI has got to result in some form of real world action, something out definitely. Of a screen in the classroom. And I think if you're setting, I've tried to use a chatbot to teach kids very early on. It went terribly wrong. They got bored very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And this is technology, which is like the newest cutting edge technology. And within like 5 minutes, they were bored out of their minds and wanted to just teach them something.
Yeah, get that. And you see kids just like that, don't they? Oh, it's worse when the kids do this. Have you ever had a kid do this to you in class? It's like, are you Tindering?
Not yet. Maybe I'm holding in there.
It's not that one, but it's just like next, just swipe off. It's like, no, I'm still here, guys. You can't do that. It doesn't work. Oh,
no, not just a kid.
You get what I'm saying, though, sir, don't you? It's like, come on, just okay. You don't like this. But it's true. It's that stickability at that level. Like I go back to the court case I had with the kids. Stickability, sticking with something and being able to hold attention. They really don't. I have a daughter in year 7, and anyone who follows me will see, because I don't mind. I'm quite happy. But she came to me on Friday and was like, "Can I get one of those fidgets?" I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Oh, I had one in class, and you know, it's just." And I went, "And how do you teach?" And she went, "Well, the teacher told me to put it away." I went, "Exactly." It's like, you're not even diagnosed. You don't need one. Most kids in our school who have it aren't diagnosed to need one. And guess some are. Some need that. I am terrible. I'm either one with a pen or I have chewing gum, because I'm also of that. Yeah, same. But those guys, and that's what reaffirmed to me the fact that, well, you don't have the habits. You have no idea how to stick with something and to hold attention. And that reaffirmed the slant component of what we do. And it's the same with this. We have to be, as educators, very mindful of the tasks and activities we do. Go back to cog science, because we're talking now about cognitive overload, or the under component of it. And see it with staff, we see it with kids. It's like, okay, geez, where have you just come from? What's the cognitive ability of you right now? Am I going to overload you if I just give you more screen time? And that's a real challenge. And that's why I think sprints are really good. And even with activities we do in class, the issue is then kids get so accustomed to pace. They just get accustomed to next. It's like, no, guys, this is a 60-minute task. We're going to break it down into its constituent parts. Let's do this. Let's come back in. Let's move now. Let's do the next part. Come back in. Move again. So you're still sprinting through something. There's still 10 minutes, and you give them the framework to work to. But it's what you do in that time. If it's just sit and find, okay, that can be one thing. But the next thing has to be draw or write or talk or solve this problem or move something around. I think that's the big challenge in education generally, is kids off seats, kids moving, kids thinking, kids being challenged.
Yeah, and I've got a few things I wanted to unpack, but they might end up being a little bit quickfire now.
That's fine.
But before we get into that, I just want to say that AQA know that teachers are the real experts in the classroom. That's why they work closely with teachers like us to combine insights and in their assessment expertise to create resources that we as teachers can use, as well as training and guidance that generally make a difference. They are the UK's most chosen assessment organisation, so the chances are you already know their work. And as we head into the new school year, AQA are focused on helping teachers feel supported and ready. So if you want to find out more about how they're working with teachers like us, just head to their website, or you can search on Google or whatever your preferred platform is. AQA, we work with experts. And also that this show is brought to you by Hachette Learning. They are publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools all over the world, from Bucharest to Dubai. Level up your professional development today by visiting www.hachetteLearning.com to explore a full range of titles. And I'm aware we've got just over 5 minutes left, because I'm going to take the live time, not the 5 minutes I wasted off air. And we've talked about chatbots. You spoke briefly about charts, but very quickly, have you got any uses of images that have worked quite well in the classroom? AI generated images.
Canva, just with Canva now, like one of the tasks I give my kids is make your own health and safety poster. And it's like they'll find out, they'll go and create the images, they'll go back and forward with it. Things like that are really, really useful, even from a STEM perspective. So if we're giving them challenges, I like character, citizenship, those types of things, real world scenarios from Fulham. And so one of the things we look at from a real world scenario is like, right, we've got an issue here with desalination. What are we going to do about water? How do we filter it? You got to design something for me that's going to do this. So Canva for images is really good. The other one we use, Nuark, is great for that as well from a science perspective, where they can put the images in and obviously then they come out and they can utilize those and explain around them. So those would be probably the main two when I'm talking about images that I would use.
Oh, that's interesting. I've only ever heard of that. Nuark ever been used in D&T. So that's hopefully quite. I'd love to see an example of what that looks like in science.
No pressure.
Audio. Have you had any like? I've tried play around with song generation or like. Have you had any hits with podcasting, AI generated podcasting or anything like that? Has anything that worked in science?
Yeah. So there's one. I don't know. Am I allowed to say? Can I say the name of one of them?
We'll just go general. I think let's go safe.
Okay. So from the Google suite of things, let's go with that one because everyone knows this one. So Notebook LM from a Google perspective, one that everyone is aware of that we can do. However, has my camera just gone off?
You've just gone off. We can still hear you though.
I think it's my camera's probably overheated. That's why. So I do apologize. It's from a tech guy.
Any great ideas? They've overheated the camera.
It probably has, actually. It's one of those. Sorry, it's the Dubai heat, but you can stick with just hearing me for the moment, and it'll come back on. It'll come back in a second. So in terms of that, Notebook LM is great for one thing, but then what we would use is within the Google Suite, Google AI Studio, is that now is the ability to create audio, one person or two people. So we've basically looked at with students creating the text and what they want it to do, and they can put it in there as a revision tool and come back out. They can create something as a short snippet of then what they've learned. So the challenge here is you can't use AI to create the script. It's all you, but the output that we all get to listen to and you choose the voice is based on that. So the aim is also then getting the students, it's again, how you focus on using the AI, not necessarily as the creation tool as in doing all the text for me, but the output of the audio. So we found that's quite useful. The voices themselves are very similar to what they have. And if they're short enough, students will listen to them. But I found within the podcast themselves is you need to have a couple of minutes, like they listen to it and then pose questions. So we're trying to get the students to add questions in. So they then start thinking about, it's like, I've just heard this, right, let's pause. Here's a question, here's this. And actually saying in it, right, pause this now. Here's a question, then unpause it when you're ready to go.
I know it's quite new tech, but have you had or found any uses for video, like generating any videos, AI videos? Because I know I've seen some examples where people have done like equations and they're not quite there yet in terms of like that level. But have you had any success with them, or is it not quite something that's it's great but not great tech but not ready for science lessons?
Great tech, not ready for science lessons, simply because like they can't get science apparatus correct. It can't get a Bunsen burner or a tripod. You know, it's good. Yeah. Like say, if you want to model something and you could give it to like a particle model, that's fine. Something very simple kids need to learn about. Those things types of work, osmosis, movement of things around, or the analogy. So I often get kids to create the analogies and then we can have a look, create it together and have a look at it to help. It's kind of a better way than getting something that's quite literal from a science side. So that side we've tried it has been quite good. But yeah, we tried it simple things like particles, so movement of particles. And what we did is we created a crowd. So it was very simple, a crowd, and on one side of a hill, the city that was busy, and then the fields that were empty. And it was to do with where things move from and to.
Oh, nice. Have you had any success with code, like any AI generated code? Because I know that it's becoming more and more readily available in all the different platforms. And I know even Canva itself has some tools for doing like little bits of coding. Any hits there?
Personally, yes. In terms of what I've created for students, where it might be, again, very similar assessments or tasks or activities that they can do that's bespoke and unique, and those work really well. The problem is with that is, where do you record the information? Where do you record their output? Or are you trusting them to go, right?
Suddenly you become a data processing, full-formed business, don't you, when you start collecting names?
Exactly. It's like, oh, my super base account, guys, we'll just add everything into this. So that side of things is, you just ask them to record it down. Like, it's just, I use it as good start. It's like a mix and match. So ones where they drag words around, fill in the blanks, other types of things is useful for that. Ones where, again, they can do fully fledged sort of quizzes, or ones where we want them to pick and choose, like, right, what pathway do you want to go on? And it can go on from there, which is quite nicely. On a bigger scale, individually, from using Claude to code has been phenomenal. I think if you've listened to me talk about this, you'll understand that I'm probably more a fan of creating things like the gems and the chatbots than I am of using some of the wrappers and packages. That just works best for me. So having Claude and Google, where you're coding, like, I'm starting to really think about what I can create for students in classroom and lead on that. And then understanding that, going to kids, it's like, right, guys, you get onto Canva for education. I want you to just make me something very quick that's going to help support your learning with this. Because I think most students wouldn't have an idea, wouldn't have a clue that it can do that for them.
I'm just very aware we've just about gone over time. So I just want to thank you so much, Alex, for your time tonight and the ideas you've given everybody. And where is the best place for people to find you if they want to find out more about the work you're doing?
Best place would be on LinkedIn. Just on there as Alex Gray, which is Gray. And I am on YouTube as well. You can find me at the Deep Education Network.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time, Alex. Thank you. Have a great evening.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.